It is a pleasure to be able to welcome the team this evening that Mr. Bates, our Chief Academic Officer, is going to introduce here in just a second to talk about the work of our Sustainability Academy. I want to take you back 3 years when we were in the planning stages of the new high school and finalizing design. Many of you know that our design was built on the tenets and principles of sustainability, to the extent that we have hundreds of geothermal wells in our playing field. We have a PV array agreement getting ready to be signed to ensure that we have solar arrays on the roof. And we also are a LEED Gold building, not to mention a variety of other sustainability aspects to the building. And so as a consequence of that, about 3 years ago, we started talking with some of the science teachers about some curriculum that might be associated with sustainability. And the group of folks that you're going to hear from this evening are going to tell you how they ran with the idea. What I was able to do over the course of the 3 years is work closely with the Ed Foundation around some additional funding that may be available for Sustainability Academy. But what has happened since sort of these initial conversations is that it has sort of taken on a really great life of its own, if you will, because of the leadership of the folks that are on the screen and others. So this evening, I want to just call your attention to the great work of the teachers, and that's why it's on tonight. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Bates.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Noonan, and good evening, Madam Chair Downs, Vice Chair Gould, and members of the board. And on behalf of the sustainability team, it's our pleasure to be able to share the work that we've done over the past couple of years on the sustainability project. The sustainability program started as a vision, and it's developed into an intentional plan that includes short-range goals of helping students to deepen their understanding of 21st century problems that face our planet, but also engaging students more deeply in project-based learning that yields sustainable outcomes for our local and global environments. Our work also includes long-range planning for the enhancement of our CTE program by bringing on an IB CP or career program and a governor's school that will provide students with even greater levels of equity and access as we continue our charge of IB for all. Our curriculum and instruction team and the Meridian leadership team have worked over the past couple of years to support our CTE teachers with this vision. This creative thinking has allowed some of our teachers, some of whom you'll hear from tonight, to present their work on a national forum and also receive national recognition for their accomplishments in the field of STEM. They've been able to highlight the work and showcase how our brand new state-of-the-art high school will help support this curriculum. Speaking more specifically around some of the examples Dr. Noonan shared with solar panels, geothermal heating, and cooling. PBL, or project-based learning, isn't something that's new to our curriculum. And we're proud of the fact that our students have had opportunities to learn about the hydroponics program and the aquaponics projects, air quality and ecosystem monitoring, gardening, and automated approaches to farming over the years. Also, we know that PBL is best practice in education, and it aligns to the rigors of IB. This academy prioritizes the PBL approach and learning in all content areas. We are well aware of the fact that Virginia has been moving away from multiple choice tests and moving towards performance-based tasks. And the research shows that engagement and connection to real-world concerns, real-world issues is one of the most beneficial features of instruction. And we're excited about this unique opportunity to really embark on something that we know that many other school districts in the Commonwealth aren't able to offer through their curriculum selections. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenters this evening. We have with us this evening Ms. Valerie Hardy, Dave Sorensis, Carrie Pollock, Dr. Ray Reward, Kenny George, Steve Knight, and our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Julie Macrina. So after the presentation, we're more than happy to answer or address any questions you might have around the work that's taken place, as well as our continued vision for the future of sustainability in Falls Church City Public Schools. So, Ms. Hardy.
Well, good evening, everyone. I am happy to be here tonight to do what I love to do, which is set up our teachers to shine and talk to you about the awesomeness that they have been leading and doing for the past 3 years. And Dr. Noonan sort of started this off best. It really began with like, what do you think, as a conversation? And where I think I've had the most fun really sitting beside this team as they've done this work is being a part of the conversations that have really unfolded organically. I think, no pun intended, organically. I really think what has been of great value as I've watched this team sort of take this and run is that it hasn't been insular, right? Meaning it's not just been a science effort or a CTE effort or a design effort. It really has been, how does this intersect with the work happening in English or language and literature? How does this dovetail with what's happening in mathematics? How does this dovetail with what happens across the curricular areas that touch the work happening in our schools? So as we think about the why, right, defining sustainability became some of the natural starting point that this team and actually a larger team of curriculum leaders really dug into, which is, what is sustainability going to sound like and look like as we think about building this from the ground up? And so defining it, it kind of came this natural progression that you can see here on the screen. And as we started to think about how that intersects with then a mission that aligns to the work that we do as an IB school system, it kind of bled into a mission that really beautifully represents not only the assets that Mr. Bates and Dr. Noonan mentioned in the features that were designed in this building sort of intentionally, but really, what does it mean to really embrace sustainability in terms of living out the principles of sustainability and helping our students really be shepherds of this as they go about their lives, and look at career paths that really will help to etch that in the world ahead. And so the mission kind of unfolded to a vision. So, yep, the next slide, thank you. That really leads to now this academy. So as you think about, the work that you're going to hear our teachers talk about today, it really is taking this very small nugget of an idea and bringing some concreteness to it in terms of putting a mission and a vision to it. And it didn't sort of become another thing. It kind of bled to what we are already doing. So one of the things that I want to make very clear as I sort of set them up to talk to you about the work is on the next slide, you'll see something that's very familiar to many of us that are sort of doing this work, are the UN goals for sustainable development. And on there are pillars that sort of we got more knowledge about. Some of us got more knowledge about. I think the three of you that you'll hear about them talk about, they had a lot more knowledge. But for those of us that weren't as familiar, the economic, environmental, and social pillar became terms that we dug into. And as we did that, on the next slide, if we could go to that, please, it became clear how it supported our work in Falls Church City, how our courses and the work that we've been doing over the scope of the years in becoming a really good MYP and DP school system aligned, how many of the courses that we are doing in our CTE program already provided our students a pathway that allowed for that exploration through the design process. How, as Mr. Bates mentioned, our project and problem-based learning that's happening in many of our curricular areas are already there. And as we started to think about field experiences and seminars and special projects that could be enhanced through this program, it all sort of made sense. And as we looked at what would not be a new thing, the next slide really lays out how it aligned to our mission and our vision and our work. So our placemat that we're currently working through really incorporated all of these tenets. And on the next slide, when we started to think about how this launched into some of the work we did to start off this school year at Convocation and digging into those sustainable goals, it became even more concrete. So for example, when you think about goal 1, no poverty, well, what's coming up next week? Give Day, right? A division-wide effort aligned to service as action. When you think about goal 6, goals 14 and 15, clean water, life below water, life and land, that's work that's happening in our science departments across the division. When you think about reduced inequalities or decent work, economic growth, those are things happening in our mathematics courses, individuals and societies, and in our language and literature courses. It's happening everywhere. And as you now will hear us talk about our strategic plan on the next slide, this is work that will continue to happen. So it's not an offshoot. It's not something that's one more thing. It's not something that is new. It's work that is to the core of who we are. And what I want to do before I stop speaking, because this is my last slide and the last you'll hear from me tonight, before I pass it over to Kenny George, it is imperative that I set them up to have some relief, because what I need these superheroes to have is some relief, as they have literally built what you are about to see on their shoulders pretty much single-handedly. In addition to teaching during a pandemic, all being parents, continuing to provide amazing instruction during a pandemic, they have built new courses for this program. They have sacrificed in their summers to write new curriculum and develop new curriculum for this program. They have worked with their colleagues in other disciplines to find cross-curricular connections to support this program. And you will see as they talk to you tonight, their love and passion for this program is not waning. And so one of the things that I think we are most excited about in looking ahead to the work of the budgeted position of the coordinator is offering some teaching support to this program, but also looking ahead to the curriculum development that it will provide and the relief it will provide to the superheroes who have been kind of carrying this on their shoulders. So I'm going to stop talking. Kenny George, you get to take us away with the awesomeness that is happening every single day with the work you are doing. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Hardy, and thanks for having me here this evening to talk about everything. So I'm Kenny George. I teach in the CT program at Meridian High School, specifically design, technology, and engineering. So my entry point to kind of all of this work, you can go to the next slide, was kind of like when I realized several years back, like, I work with all these really awesome people and all these different departments that are just doing really cool things. And I wanted to kind of grow the design program, but I also just wanted to connect dots for a lot of my students who are in design, because they do these things and we tend to, the way this structure of high school is, it can kind of silo off these experiences. And I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if I could kind of use design as this kind of like thread, threading the needle and pulling all these things together so that students could see, the interconnectedness of everything they're doing at school. So I kind of started to, reach out to some of my colleagues and try to pull these interdisciplinary lessons together, kind of all under the umbrella of kind of looking at these pillars of sustainability and these goals, and kind of the idea that like we teach design as kind of a skill and a trade and kind of an opportunity for post-secondary career readiness, but it's also like kind of a social and moral imperative. We design to make things better. So here's one example of like one of the first projects. Dr. Mecca and I kind of wrote a grant and did a autonomous water monitoring with a drone. So the students in design retrofitted a drone to kind of collect water samples and monitor that. So we can go to the next slide. And just kind of go through a couple quick projects to kind of see some of the ways that I've tried to integrate design into other programs, and also to kind of expose more students to design maybe that wouldn't have it in their schedule, and maybe also bring students into that design program that maybe didn't know it existed and it was a good fit for them. So here we kind of looked at right before the pandemic shut us down. We were working, as I think Mr. Bates was speaking earlier, on kind of designing a courtyard, and the old junior courtyard is kind of a demonstration project, and kind of the centerpiece around it was the farm bot, which is kind of an autonomous gardening structure. So it uses CNC technology to garden. That was the focal point, and students designed other things such as tables out of reclaimed material. They were in the process of working with the zoning department to build a pergola. So different other elements there that kind of brought design into kind of in there. And so here's a project I did in science to kind of look at kind of, how sustainability impacts communities and cities. And we looked specifically at our own community in the WNOD trail. So I worked with James Thomas in geometry, and we wrote this unit together to kind of explore kind of the engineering of a bridge, and talking about like, not just, okay, let's not just learn triangles, but like how do, why build bridges? Why are there different types? What is the benefit of it? So the students kind of went through the process of doing the VDOT request RFP to kind of like design a bridge to safely move pedestrians over Lee Highway, or Washington Boulevard rather, kind of looking at that project as kind of a demonstration of kind of how sustainability and design kind of can improve communities. And I think there might be one more slide up. Yep. And so just to kind of see where we landed right now. So this is kind of an example of what I'm currently running kind of with my Design 1 students. And we're in this project right now as kind of an introduction. So we've kind of spent the first half of the year kind of getting those foundational skills, but now I'm really kind of bringing in that kind of ethos of sustainability, or kind of design as like I said, like a moral or social imperative. So we're looking at like this idea of flat pack furniture, but specifically school furniture for the developing world. So students are kind of tasked with this idea that like, not just looking at a chair as a thing to sit at, but like the idea of like, design as a much more complex system of, making things with reclaimed materials, or kind of reducing the kind of embodied energy or footprint of an object by maybe dematerializing with less materials, making it lighter for transport so it could kind of make its way to its final destination quicker. So kind of looking at that idea that like, we tend to take kind of design things for granted, but like if we think about designing from a more kind of rational and sustainable perspective, that can kind of improve humanity and have those benefits. So that's kind of some of the work that kind of has been kind of the design program is employing into this. And I'll throw it over to Dr. Rohr now to kind of talk a little more about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. George. Now I get to brag a little bit more about you and some of the projects you've been working on as well. I'm the technology and engineering teacher at Henderson and also the energy teacher at Meridian. So I work at both campuses. Fortunate to be able to do that. So in the slide that you're looking at here, we have the Meridian design classes under Mr. George's leadership that have been working with the Habitat for Humanity project, where the students have actually built Adirondack chairs from reclaimed pallet wood. So the chairs ultimately were donated to the families of the homes at the end of the project. And in particular, we continue to go back to the UN goals for sustainable development. And this one in particular hits on goal number 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. So not only what we're doing within the walls of the school, but also within our community as well. If you want to go to the next slide. So this project, which is the Pallets and Planners project, was funded by a grant from the Falls Church Education Foundation this fall. And it focuses on multiple sustainability initiatives, such as interior scaping, urban gardening, air quality, horticultural therapy, and upcycling. We have students at both Meridian and Henderson who have been working, who have been in the process of setting up the planners, building them, designing them, creating them, growing the plants, watering them, maintaining them, and putting them throughout the schools. And you're starting to see those taking place as you walk into both the schools now in the main lobby areas, but we'll also be bringing more in over the next couple of weeks as well. So this definitely is a project where we provide numerous real world, hands-on, project-based experiences for the students that are involved. And in the pictures, you can see where the Meridian design classes have actually converted used pallet or wood from pallets into the wood planter boxes after the creation of the digital designs, the planing of the rough wood pieces, and in some we've started, and they've even started staining some of the boxes as well. So we also have the Meridian Environmental Science and the Henderson Sustainable Design and Engineering classes that have been growing, propagating the plant materials for over a year now. So And then one of the other components of this is with some of the prefabricated planters that we have, we ensured that all of those were actually made from recycled materials, and in particular tires were used in those. So I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Mrs. Carrie Pollock.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm Carrie Pollock. I teach earth science and environmental science at Meridian. I am an earth scientist at heart, geography, environment, all of it. And the Urban Farm Project is the name we've given to all the approaches that we've had over the years to urban agriculture in FCCPS, and specifically at MEH and Meridian. These are projects that students have maintained and been recognized for. They've taken to conferences, they've gone, they've received, presidential excellence in the environment awards. It's really impressive what students have been able to do with some of these projects. And it's been interesting getting everything set up again in the new building, because we moved last year and we moved all the projects with it. So I just wanted to point out that farming in general, the very general sense of the word, is cultivating a crop or animal to share with other people. And that's a great model for what we're doing in FCCPS. It focuses on the three main tenets that we look at in environmental sustainability, which would be zero waste, urban agriculture, or finding new ways to grow on the land that we have, and building community around these projects. And so that is what I already see happening at Meridian. We're growing seeds, or growing plants from seeds. We're propagating them. We have indoor plants, we have outdoor plants, vegetables, succulents, trees, very small trees at this point. And we're going to tailor the projects to the interests of the kids. We also have goldfish. Aquaponics and aquaculture is strong. We have goldfish, whitetail, placoderms, brook trout, snails, worms. I've learned a lot about vermiculture and worm composting. We have potato bugs, and we're looking at getting, live specimens from all classes of life, which is really exciting. Reptiles, amphibians, that's where we want to get to. I really want to point out that the Urban Farm Project is utterly inclusive. It includes all these types of projects, but it is reaching every type of student. So we have kids at all ability levels, all grade levels, and all different interests that join in the project. So they might be aware of it because of an environmental science class, but then they join the environmental club, and the environmental club has a day where they're helping with the gardening. Or we have students in the life skills class that are in charge of watering some plants and pruning some of the leaves off of them and cleaning up. We have other students that are in charge of the laundry that we produce in the vivarium, and they take care of that and bring it back to us clean, and we're really proud of that project. We have the Enviro 9 class, which is a science skills class. They have taken on the trout in the classroom. They've raised trout from eggs to fingerlings, and we're just waiting to hear from the Virginia Department of Game and Fisheries to see where to go to release them and to add them back to that ecosystem. So, we also have students that have 5 or 6 IB classes in their schedule that are also using the spaces and running projects of their own out of the spaces and through the projects that we have. And they also are getting involved in the clubs that are picking up some of these initiatives. I think, go ahead to the next slide. So that was the Urban Farm Project. And within that, we have the newly received Falls Church Education Foundation grant to begin a pollinator garden on the campus at the secondary schools. So that means we're going to start with the 10 by 10 this year. We have businesses and master gardeners, and Falls Church is just filled with people that want to help us pull off these projects. So this Pemmon Hills Pollinators group is donating the labor to help us clear a space of land and to have the students design and choose which plants will be planted and why they're planted there. And we're talking about the importance of pollinators. They're a keystone species. If we don't have pollinators, we don't have a lot of other organisms in the ecosystem. And human development has paid no attention to pollinators. So it's a look at biology and, policy and, ethics, things like that all come up in these projects. And I have been blown away by the amount of help that I've been offered. I can't even answer all the emails from the community, and I'm going to need Mary Beth Connolly's help to sort out the businesses that are interested in helping, and also, like I said, just individuals, parents, and people that have a lot of experience with gardening and are really excited about some of these projects. So that's a little bit about what we're doing in the vivarium. Thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Knight. I am privileged to support career technical ed at Meridian and Henderson. I'm also very privileged to work with the three of these very passionate teachers and kind of support them, give them anything they need, and try to structure some of the things that they're doing. We have a big lift ahead of us, the Sustainable Academy for Sustainable Thinking and the future of the Governor's School. So there's a lot of planning that needs to happen. And I have the opportunity to share some of the short-term goals with you. So one of the first short-term goals we've been working on, definitely in December, we started the work in October, is building a partnership program with Arlington County Public Schools and the city of Fairfax. This is a big part of being ready for the Governor's School application, but it's also an opportunity to share our amazing teachers and our amazing programs with surrounding districts. So part of the work that we have done is we've looked at our course program of studies. We've looked at all the courses that we hope to use for the academy, and we're working on ways to bring students from Arlington and the city of Fairfax to benefit from those. Next slide, please. And some of those courses are here. And when you see the current areas of focus, this is the big three for the academy. Of course, we have our design classes, our new energy pathway, career cluster. Thank you to the school board for approving the next course in this 3-course pathway a few months ago. And then, of course, our science. One of the things we are recognizing is in order to meet the 3 pillars, we do have to integrate as many of the subjects of the humanities as we can. So we have a very interested teacher who's teaching IB Global Politics in Fan Mahoney. She's already talking about the UN sustainable goals in her curriculum, so she's a natural connection. We have the opportunity, once approved by the VDOE, to bring the data science class to Meridian. And this will be a huge part. We're going to focus on the curriculum to focus on more of a sustainable, have a sustainable lens, using that, the data and all of that from sustainable systems. And of course, we're connecting our computer science classes with our brand new IB Digital Societies class and also computer science. So there's a lot of things that we're marketing. In year 1, we've actually worked together to create our first one-pager. Our posters are throughout the building to start to inform the students about the Academy for Sustainable Thinking. And this is just an example. It's also links where we're giving all the students, giving them more information about all the opportunities that they would have joining the Academy, and also how to get started, what courses to take, who to contact. As Carrie mentioned, and Kenny and Ray, we have so many co-curricular projects and extracurricular projects that are happening inside the class and outside. So we want to give everyone the opportunity to join in some capacity. We also want to help guide their course selection as they move forward. I think next is Dave Sorensis, who's going to show a little bit more of our short-term staffing goals.
Thanks, Steve, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us here tonight. Carrie, Kenny, Ray, that was amazing. And it's going to be a really nice segue into what I'm going to be talking about, which is the staffing to support this academy. We have two kind of key pieces, right? We have the 11-month contracts that have been put out there for our science and CTE teachers. And this is really just to support the work and allow teachers to be teachers, right? You just heard them talk about the farm bot and the autonomous drones and the building, all these like cool, innovative things. Surprisingly, they don't happen without a lot of planning, right? So they've been doing all of that on their own time. What we're looking to do is build that in with these 11-month contracts, the innovative teaching practices, like we just said, and the project management, all of those things. The other really, really key piece here to allow the teachers to be teachers is the program coordinator. This person is, of course, going to take on a heavy lift. They're also going to have a teaching responsibility. But along with that teaching responsibility is going to be coordinating the efforts of this entire team, right? They're going to be the leader. We have to have somebody that's kind of heading up the show. They're going to collaborate with our teachers. We talked about the IB Global Politics. We already have some of those kind of integrations happening. We need to continue to have that happening. I walk around the other day, I walked in the classroom, I heard another teacher in that department saying how excited they were about this. So, what we've already built are some just fantastic ambassadors for this program. And that's what we want to continue to promote. And then there's two kind of really, really big pieces as I'm going to move forward in a second to look at our kind of long-term goals. We have the governor's school, which we've mentioned a couple of times, which requires quite a hefty application process. And we also have the IBCP program that we're looking to implement. So both of those are going to fall onto this coordinator position. And that's huge, right? Because with all of this being on the coordinator, it's really going to allow for the people you just heard talking to have the opportunity to focus on continuing to be innovative and really just kind of push this program forward. If you can move forward to the next slide and even go one more. What we have, I'm kind of going a few years down the road in 23-24, what we're looking to be is a fully authorized IBCP program. Carrie, I thought, mentioned inclusivity, which is so huge, right? We're not just talking about this being, we talk IB, you think that's exclusive. Not at all. Quite the opposite. We see a vision where this actually would allow a pathway for our ESOL students to be able to enroll in the CP program. Of course, we'll still have, it's going to be available to everyone, but it's going to open up some brand new pathways. The governor's school application, that's what we're going to be looking to complete that. And then by 24-25, hope to be fully authorized and accepting full-time students. Go back a couple of years, our more immediate goals. Go forward. Sorry, forward in the slides, backwards in time. What we're going to be in spring 22, we have the courses that are actually adopted, the Energy Demand and the IB Digital Society. And then we also have the TSA Club. And then looking to next year, we're going to have a capstone course, which is going to be pretty incredible. That's going to be associated with Energy and Power, where they can work on a capstone project. And then the personal professional skills course, that's really what TOK is to the DP program. It's a course that's going to go alongside anybody that's looking to get this IBCP diploma would enroll in that. So as you can see, we have a pretty thorough set of things that we're trying to accomplish over the next couple of years, but I really do think we have the right people on board, and we hope to have everybody's support. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear us tonight.
So before we turn it over to questions, I want to just say thanks to the team for being out tonight. I know you've got an early morning tomorrow, so I hope you'll stick on for a few questions in case the board has them. But I also wanted to say why are they here tonight? And this was we went through the list of new items that you wanted to hear about, and this was one of the new items that you all wanted to hear about as part of your work sessions going forward. So this is the first one that was slotted in, and part of the reason that we did this one is sort of serendipitous because there also is a budgetary request in the superintendent's proposed budget that I think you heard about tonight. So with that, Madam Chair, we'd certainly entertain questions that you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Noonan, and thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it, and it was a really exciting presentation. I'll turn it over for questions. Does anyone? Yes, Ms. Silverman.
Thank you for explaining the program. It sounds so incredible. Something that I wish I had the opportunity to take when I was in high school, and really fitting into the IB curriculum. So everything about it sounds fantastic. I'm just curious, how many students are currently enrolled in the program? And do you think that adding more programming and expanding the programming would encourage others to join? And do you have any sort of idea, maybe, I don't know if you could even guess, about how many more it would attract?
So Mr. Knight, I know we can talk a little bit about current enrollment. I know Dr. Rewar, you have the current class, right? Since we were piloting this year of students. And then I'd be happy to talk a little bit about some of our outreach efforts, Ms. Silverman, after that.
Yes, so currently the three teachers that are here today have been really promoting the sustainability in all their classes. And we have been working on, getting all the students to step up and be part of it. A lot of them are showing their interest and passion by doing these extracurricular, co-curricular activities. Our next step is portfolio-based, taking what they're learning and reflecting and putting it in one place so we can showcase it. I know Mr. George has created an environment, and maybe many of you have met the sustainability ambassadors. So we've been taking all the students that are interested in the Sustainability Academy and moving them into this Schoology group where we can start to collaborate and kind of communicate with them directly. The next step is, we haven't got to the place where they're signing on the dotted line. We are really kind of trying to find out who is really passionate and how we can integrate everywhere they are. So we are collecting more information. As you know, the design class that Kenny teaches, the energy class that Ray teaches, and the science classes that Carrie teaches, all these students are interested. We had talked about a cohort model in the beginning, starting with 8th grade and starting with freshmen this year. And so that's why Ray and Kenny are really talking to the kids, helping them, guide them to the next course structure, the next course selection, so they can continue learning and the sustainability kind of in the academy. I really think that as we expand this program, we hope to see many of the students from the surrounding districts join us. That will help our numbers in all our classes. We have the courses that we have promoted for the partnership are classes that we naturally see growing and increasing by sections. And we are predicting that the support from the partnership will help move that forward. Valerie, I hope I answered that.
Absolutely. I think too, Ms. Silverman, as we are opening this up to other jurisdictions, this has been a real concrete question that we've had to address, right? How do we make sure that our students have opportunity to access courses? What's the right number as we send students to the Arlington Career Center and want to reciprocate? How do we open this up to Fairfax? Engage interest. We did set a hard number at 30 seats, trying to make sure that we have those seats accessible, and have been working with Mr. Sowers, our director of counseling, to say, beginning, end of the day for accessibility. And then that slide where we pointed out the courses that we're offering, so that we could make sure that we had accessibility for our students first in Falls Church. They have obviously started the enrollment process, so we're getting them locked in first and then opening it up to those two jurisdictions to be able to get the students in. But one of the unique nuances to sort of life in our secondary scheduling is we do offer so many courses and course offerings for our students that it does become sort of this unique pathway for our students, especially as we're talking about pathways and programming, that I do see us refining as we go through time. And so one of the things that I think historically that we've looked at, and Dave, please chime in, at the high school, we've had courses that we've just sort of continued to offer and offer and offer and offer. And I think as a secondary team, we've had some lively conversations this year around, we need to start looking at how do we get really, really strategic about what we're offering. One, for the purposes of our students getting what they need, right? But two, so that the bandwidth of our teachers isn't stretched so thin that they're teaching 5 and 6 different preps through the scope of their day and feeling that they are instructional bandwidth to be able to sustain is so far. So it's been sort of a twofold conversation, Ms. Silverman, that as we bring things in, we also have to look at what is the lifespan of courses, how many students are enrolling them, how long do we keep them to make sure students can still access them to graduate and get what they need, but then what are we perhaps looking at waning, which are hard conversations to have, but also the right conversations that we have to have.
If I may add just a couple things to those two things that were said. Is that right? I just want to point out, as Kenny and Ray and Steve and I have worked on what you have to do to become a sustainability scholar, it has been important to us all along that every level of kid can achieve it. So there will be students that are going for the standard diploma that are able to achieve some certification, and there will be kids that are going for the highest courses that we offer that will be able to fit this into their list of achievements. So historically, we've seen students that are disengaged in school be able to find these projects as a way back into something, interesting at school. And so we don't want to lose that. We don't want to make this be an honors program that only a certain type of student could possibly accomplish. There are varying levels of becoming a sustainability scholar, and it's just really valuable to all of us in the courses we teach to have varying levels of students. So I would say the number is high. Maybe not to start next year, but it will. I would think that there will be a lot of students at all grade levels that are getting some sort of recognition for their role in these sustainability projects.
Vice Chair Downs.
Yes, Mr. Bates.
Yeah, and I would also add, so in addition to the course sequence that we've shared, or the specific courses that were outlined, one of the goals of this project coordinator would be to infuse the sustainability thinking or sustainable thinking, as well as some of the projects or the project-based learning or problem-based learning around the sustainable thinking across all classes, across all curricular areas. And so again, we do envision and anticipate an increased number of students matriculating into these courses, but for those students who aren't, we would still be providing opportunities for this type of level of engagement around real world project-based learning opportunities with the sustainable thinking in mind.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Bates. And thank you, Ms. Pollock. I think that's a great point. We often hear about IB for all, and so I think we want to make sure it's accessible for all of our students. Thank you. And I think Ms. Silverman, you had a follow-up question?
Yeah, so I'm still trying to understand all of this, to be honest. And I understand there's this future piece, which I think you guys really did a great job explaining about attracting students from other school districts. And but there are currently classes already being implemented. Is that right? So do we have an enrollment number for how many students we have in the current classes?
We do. Oh, go ahead.
Do you have that at your fingertips? Otherwise, we could take it as a follow-up question.
That's what I was just going to say. We can get that information to you.
That would be really helpful. Thank you. And again, I do love that it's accessible for all. And especially after COVID, re-engaging students become interested in something again, I think is crucially important right now. So that was a very good point. So thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Dimick.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. So I have a freshman who very much enjoys Mr. George's class. So I guess I've been, he has to pick his courses for next year and sort of looking ahead. And there are very few holes in your schedule to take like cool classes that are outside the sort of core math, history, English. And so I'm wondering what adding that IBCP does, because to me, as a parent looking at this with a kid, that's eating up an elective that I could be doing design, or I could be doing energy, or I could be doing one of these fun classes. Why do I want to do that one?
Mr. Sorensis and Ms. Macrina, do you want to talk about our visit to Mount Vernon and some of what we just uncovered in the IBCP benefits that we saw?
Yeah, so we went over to Mount Vernon and we actually got to go into a classroom. And there was a substitute there that day, but we still got to speak to the kiddos. And it was pretty interesting to hear why they were involved in the class. And they were just throwing out there, the things that they were interested in. They were all real world types of activities, and there was medical related, right? I can't remember all the specifics, but they were so passionate about why they decided to be in this CP program. They said it really gave them an opportunity to learn about something that they were actually interested in. And I think that's kind of the goal, right? And that's what you're alluding to. We really want to kind of drive that interest again as we come back.
Can I add to that just a little bit? Because I think one of the things that Valerie, Ms. Hardy suggested that may be helpful, because I think one of the things we worry about is offering so much that you end up with so many choices that you kind of, it's really hard to pick and choose. So I think one of the things that these folks have done a really great job of so far this year is sort of beginning to weed out those courses that have traditionally had really low numbers, or courses that don't need to be taught every year, but could perhaps be taught every other year, to make a core set of choices more available, as opposed to continuing to diffuse enrollment across so many sections. So hopefully it's a both and, as opposed to the tyranny of or.
And I think that was one of the things, and please, Mr. Knight, you were also there with us on that tour, that we saw Dr. Dimick in the CP sort of pathway that definitely connects to the sustainability courses, is that the connection of the courses sort of naturally make this IB pathway accessible. And they're in many of the courses that we either are offering or will dovetail to the courses that are being built in the sustainability program. So to Dr. Noonan's point, as we're looking at the courses that we offer and are also waning, the selections become streamlined and create the natural pathway for students. And to that point that Ms. Pollock really made earlier, the thing about CP, I think that we all came back completely jazzed about, is it is so accessible and inclusive for our students that are second language learners. It does not have some of the same curricular requirements in terms of prerequisites, and it creates pathways for our Ls and an opportunity to graduate with an IB certification, not the same rigor perhaps as maybe the DP program, but still a pathway in the CP program that is recognized through the IB. And so for us, I think it charged us a little bit more so in this work, seeing that it will increase the number of students that potentially will graduate with an IB diploma through our school system, but more importantly, will reach the kids that we know we're not getting in terms of our IB graduates. So I think it's a twofold, right? It's streamlining, but it's also creating those natural pathways so that when Casey is looking at his course selection, he'll see, oh, when I take this course with Mr. George, 2 years of it, oh, that creates a CP pathway. How awesome is that? And I didn't even know it, right? It just happens organically.
And one of the things to keep in mind too is that the only requirement of IBCP is the personal and professional or preparation skills course. And the way that's going to run, I think Mr. Sorensis brought it up, it was like our TOK. So it is a semester class. So it would be a semester junior class and a semester senior class. And so we're really envisioning, and the way Mount Vernon High School was doing it, their senior year of this CP required class was actually more of a capstone seminar kind of class, where they were, they had that time in their schedule already to work on these projects, to work on resumes, to work on interview skills, they had that time built in. Some of our seniors take that opportunity to have, supervised study, senior study, all of that. What in the seniors in the CP program would be encouraged to have an educator that would be there. So it's not a lot of requirement. And like Carrie mentioned, every student can be part of the sustainability. Same with anybody could be in part of the IBCP. And when we think about it, like Dave mentioned, when we went in and talked to the kids, they all told us what their career track, their CTE track was. And that was the first thing they said. They computer science, sports medicine. And that's the only thing that the students would have to do in the IBCP. What's great about the IB is that we encourage kids to take a two-year IB class. And so that could be English 11 and 12. That could be a lot of different creative things. So Dr. Dimmick, I think it's really, there is a lot of flexibility in how they could enter into the IBCP program, just like the Sustainability Academy for Sustainable Thinking. We're kind of taking all the great courses they already do and kind of put them under an umbrella, if that helps.
And if I may, I would also offer that although our students are IB, we know not all of our students will obtain an IB DP diploma, and that's okay. But the IBCP program, or the career-related program, offers an extension of IB into those upper grades where students can continue if they so choose to, and they're not going into an IB DP related course, could still take an IBCP course in a career-related field and maintain that IB. And again, when we start talking about equity and access and expansion of IB, that allows us to obtain those goals.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say, I remember when I was elected to the school board 2 years ago, Dr. Noonan had talked about us really trying to make, go for doing this, the CP component of the IB. So it's just, for me, it's amazing to see just in 2 years, all the progress that you all have made, especially with COVID. And, I know that in the past, we've sent students to Arlington for career and technical education. So it's wonderful to see this being brought in-house. So I just really commend you all very much for that. We're going to wrap this up in a few minutes, but if we have any other questions from anyone on the board? Okay. Oh, yes, Dr. Ortiz.
Yeah, so looking ahead, when and this is maybe just me being ignorant at this point, but when the district submits the application for the government school for sustainability in the 2023-24 timeframe, what does that look like from the standpoint of any potential budgetary implications for the district?
It's a really great question, Dr. Ortiz, and it's one that we've really are trying to get our hands around right now. And just so everybody knows, the governor's school moniker gives us an opportunity to also apply for additional grant funding that can offset any additional costs that may come to the school division. But the primary drivers of cost for us are maintenance of effort, like most of the time, like staff, making sure that we have the appropriate materials and resources available that are of the best quality for us to be able to maintain a program. So I'll give an example. Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology is a governor's school. They have a foundation that is specific to Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology that raises hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to put towards equipment and the like that can't necessarily be funded by the school division. With the foundation that we have here, the Ed Foundation, and their desire to support this work, I do think that the costs associated with doing some sort of program like this with other school divisions coming in can be, at least the cost of the materials and supplies and the like can be captured in partnership with the school division and our foundation. And they've been really great and offered up some opportunities. The other costs associated with it are transportation, but we bear the brunt of the cost of transportation already to take kids to the Arlington Career Center. And so knowing that we would be taking kids to the Career Center and bringing kids from Arlington back, we've been in early conversations with Arlington about how we may be able to split the cost of some of the transportation. Same with the City of Falls Church, or City of Fairfax, excuse me, my former employer, City of Fairfax. So I do think, with the exception of the materials, and Mr. George will tell you, some of the materials that he needs are very expensive. But we do believe that we have some ways of gaining some ground on some of that.
Thank you, Dr. Ortiz. Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you to these outstanding educators again, and just say thanks for hanging in there with us. It's 9:30 and 8 o'clock calls early. So I just want to say
Yeah.
thanks, and I'll turn it over.
Yes,
to Laura.
thank you again. And just, I think I'm speaking for the board when I say it just does our heart good to see you all doing this work and really preparing our students to have successful careers after they graduate from Meridian High School. And this is really, I think Ms. Hardy's talking about, having to close down some courses. And, I know when I was in high school, I took typing. We don't offer that anymore. So, times change and we need to change with the times. And I think you all are making sure that our students can be competitive, whether they go on to college or whether they go into a career track. And that's what it's all about. So thank you all very much for this work. And thank you for joining us and staying up. I'll get to bed now, so you're ready for the 8 o'clock bell. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.